And by the next thing, I mean milling. Yay! I've got a joint, what's that, 24 boards, and then get them brought down to thickness. All of these pieces here will be getting turned into the shelving that goes above the desk. First things first, I need to rough cut them to length on the drop saw, which means I need to move these. So there's all of our boards milled, one face flat and smooth. I have a rather lot of thickness planning. Because all of these boards are halves of a much larger board that I ripped down the middle, and I'm trying to keep them in pairs so they match up perfectly later on, I need to pay special attention to how much I'm removing from each face as to not leave them lopsided and therefore the grain not line up later on. You can see here I've marked each individual piece, lining them back up with their pair, and then marking the faces to make sure I keep track of everything. I'm also going to be using the inside-outside jointer method here, where you run one face up against the fence, and then the other side, for the other board, you run the face away from the fence, and that way it counteracts any unevenness in your angle that you have your fence set at. If it's not perfectly square, you'll still get a nice jointed board. Alright, so I've got these 4 in the clamps at the moment. I've got all of these ones here dry, these 3 down here as well, all glued up. So I need to give them a quick sand while these ones are drying so I can move on to doing some joinery. So I'm just sanding down these big boards, and I've noticed that we've got this bark inclusion. So what we're going to do is just fill that up with some black CA glue, put some activator on, and then once it's cured we'll just sand it down flush and it will blend in. So that ends up being quite a nice little feature. Not only does it make it look nice and smooth, but it stabilizes all of the internal void that was there. So I'll do that in any other spots that I notice and then carry on sanding. With these all smoothed out, I can move over to the table saw to get them ripped down to their final width. And I know it's a bit unnecessary, but I went through the effort of removing the same amount from each side as to ensure that my glue line stayed perfectly in the middle of these boards once they were at their finished dimensions. Alright, quick update. I've just cut out A, B, C, D, E, and all of the shelves marked F. So now I just need to play around with the orientation color-wise and get the nicest ones where I think they'll be seen the most. And then I'm not going to cut the 2 long shelves marked G down to length just yet, because I want to... These shelves are actually getting inset into these vertical uprights by 10mm on each side. So I need to route a 10mm groove in each of these locations on these 2 side pieces for this side and for this side. And I need to make sure that they're exactly 10mm deep. If they're not, that's okay. It will just slightly adjust the size of this middle section here. So I'll have a play around with that and start marking out.